my grandma sold this house for £75,000. That was half the price of other houses on the road at the time. If you try to buy this house today, you got to spend at least £2 million. There is a black exodus from London. 70% of black Brits used to live in London. Now that number is under 50%, even though a majority of black professionals say they want to be in the capital. And nationwide, black Caribbean home ownership is down to just 31%. Black African ownership is lower at 22%. I have surveyed thousands of black professionals in my book, The Good, the Black and the Boujee, How Black Britain Became Middle Class. My name is Simeon Brown. I've interviewed everyone from LL Cool J to Ava DuVernay. I have reported on black culture and inequality across the globe, from Brazil, Colombia, to South Africa and Kenya, but this time I'm closer to home. The 4 stories? 1, 2, 3. 4-story house that was owned by my grandmother, and this is a woman who didn't have an education, a working class black woman from Jamaica. She owned the whole property. I don't have a vast amount of memories here, but I do have my oldest memory here. 2 or 3 years old, going down the stairs and having biscuits with my father at that time, who basically was living in the basement. Black Londoners basically either live in houses that their families own, or they live in social rented house accommodation, or they've lived here in private rented accommodation. Now those in private rented accommodation, many of them people have been forced out just simply because of the cost of rent, and gentrification is really, they've been the biggest casualty of that. Then you have people in social rents. Now that is different because many of them have secure tenancies, and so they are, significantly they are still here. Their children now, that's another question. The ends doesn't really have a natural border. It's a spatial arrangement of places that predominantly black people have settled in, working class black people. So we're talking about your Tottenhams, where I actually grew up, your Tottenhams, your Hackneys, your Brixtons, outside of London, your Handsworth, Toxteth, St. Paul's, we would all call this like the ends. But certainly in London, the spatial arrangement and the composition of the ends is changing simply because of the cost of property, the cost of buying, the cost of renting. Ultimately, it's the ends that has given shape to black cultural products in this country. But a key part of that story is London itself as a place. One of the reasons why, black Britain or black culture has given this country so much flavor is ultimately because black people have lived in London, and London is such a hub of influence that we've been the seasoning in the city. And that has also given the things that we've done greater reach. It's giving us greater impact. And so if you remove these kind of places as a possibility for black life because it's just too expensive to live here, what does that do to black Britain itself? You can't have black Britain without the ends. So if you think about people in the emerging black middle class predominantly who are from the ends, but they have gone on to university, or they've gone into middle or high income work, London has been a big part of their story in terms of enabling them to break into those industries. If you think about London, right, it is the biggest single internal domestic market. It has the best paying jobs, it has the biggest companies, and it has the biggest opportunities to probably propel yourself forward and generate wealth, generate steam, more so than any part of the country. So if you are from London and you have secure tenancy, either a council home or your parents own your home, that is a massive material advantage comparable to anybody else in the country. And that is what I had ultimately. The other side of the coin though is that for people who are from the ends, especially the ends, I'm talking about the ends in London, what they have found, especially if they get to an age now where they're ready to buy their own property or to rent, what they find is that actually, but there is a strong chance, unless you earn a lot of money, that you will not be able to buy it in that area that you're from in London. It's just too expensive. But that means now that the networks that they have, the family networks, friendship networks, can no longer be kind of incubated. They've got to move further afield, and you're seeing that. So if we look at the percentage of black people living in places like Dartford, that has tripled in the last 10 years. You're seeing similar patterns emerge in places across Kent and Essex, where a lot of the black people from the ends who have had a level of social mobility, they can't really afford to live in the places closest to their families in the city because it's become too expensive. There's another side to that as well. The other side to that is that there's also a general view as well amongst some people that I think most black professionals, according to those I surveyed, they want to be in London, although they want to be in the bougie neighborhood near to the ends they grew up. And what I mean by that is that if you grew up in Peckham, you want to live in Dulwich. If you grew up in East Ham, you want to live in Wanstead. If you grew up in Tottenham, you want to live in Highgate. So you want to live in the bougie area near to the end that you grew up. So something that is local to you, but is more aspirational. But the reality is that even the hood is too expensive for many black professionals emerging into middle or somewhat high income or lower high income jobs. So what is happening spatially is that black Londoners are leaving, and they're not leaving because they necessarily want to leave. And this itself is fundamentally changing Black Britain. It's changing the possibilities of Black Britain because it's in the cities, it's in the settlement and the places where there is a concentration where you've had the big cultural movements and the subcultures emerge because you have a body of people there. They're networked, they know each other. They had their own locales. You know, they always had their own spots. You know what I'm saying? You do not have grime without both. You know what I'm saying? You do not have garage music without Swapes of South London. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't have that without Battersea and where their man they were coming from in So Solid. You don't have it without their hood. Without the block, you don't have UK rap. So place and space matters for culture. So then what happens if you just have black people from the ends just being absorbed into random parts of the country where they suddenly become a very isolated minority and there is no concentration or scope for that? Basically, that was one of the questions that I'm grappling with in my book.